People love asking, so what was the final straw? Like a marriage ends with fireworks and a dramatic soundtrack. Mine ended with a laugh. Her laugh, specifically, sharp, easy, practiced. The kind you use when you're sure the other person is stuck with you. And the funniest part? She thought she was being cute. We looked normal from the outside. No screaming, no broken plates, no neighbors calling anyone. Just a clean house, shared plans, and the kind of polite routine that makes people say, "Oh, you two are solid." The only problem was that my solid felt like I was the one holding the whole thing up with my shoulders, while Vicky gave me little taps in the ribs and called it joking. That night started like a performance I'd rehearsed all week. I got home earlier than I needed to, sleeves rolled up like I was auditioning for Husband of the Year, and started setting the place like it mattered. Drinks chilled, music low, kitchen clean enough to eat off the counter if you're the type of person who hates joy. I even arranged the snacks in a way that looked casual, but clearly wasn't. I checked the clock for the 10th time. She was supposed to be home at 6. At 6:07, my phone buzzed. "Vicky, running a little late, don't freak out." Classic. A tiny jab, wrapped in a bow, delivered like a joke you're expected to laugh at because, "What else are you going to do?" I typed back, "All good, drive safe." And yes, I hated myself for how quickly I wrote it. Like a trained customer service rep responding to a difficult client. By 6:24, she finally walked in. No apology, no, "Hey, thanks for doing all this." No kiss that lasted longer than a polite peck you give an ant. She stepped inside, looked around, and nodded like a manager inspecting a new employee's workstation. "Wow," Vicky said, dropping her purse. "You went all out." It was the kind of compliment that technically counts, the way interesting choice counts when someone sees your haircut and doesn't want to lie. I forced a light smile. I figured I'd make it nice. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, quick, efficient, like stamping a receipt. Then she walked past me toward the kitchen. "Did you remember to hide the embarrassing stuff?" she called over her shoulder. "What embarrassing stuff?" "My husband," she said, laughing at her own line, like she was doing stand-up in our living room. I exhaled through my nose. Half amusement, half something else. The thing I always filed under. She's tired, she's stressed, she's joking. Don't be dramatic. I went back to plating the food. Vicky walked around the apartment, adjusting things. Not helping, not adding, just correcting. A pillow here. A candle moved 2 inches there. A glance at the table. At 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. First came Ben and Carla, carrying wine and loud friendliness. Then the others. The apartment filled with voices, music, glass clinks, that warm social noise people mistake for happiness. And Vicky. Her smile widened. Her voice softened. She became the center without trying, or at least without looking like she was trying. People leaned toward her when she talked. They waited for her reactions. The room organized itself around her energy. I drifted along the edges, refilling drinks, checking the food, making sure everything worked. The classic move. Become the staff in your own home and call it hospitality. At one point, I stood near the kitchen doorway and watched her laugh at something Trevor said. She touched his arm lightly, just part of the rhythm of conversation. Normal, harmless, easy to ignore. Still, something about it made the room feel tilted by half a degree. Trevor lifted his glass. "Okay, I've got a toast. To the hostess." Everyone turned. Vicky smiled like she'd been expecting it. "To her," he said, "for somehow keeping this guy," he pointed at me, "alive and functioning." A few laughs. "I try not to wander into traffic," I said. More laughs. Friendly ones. Acceptable ones. Trevor grinned. "No, seriously. If I had to rely on you, man, I'd be done." And then Vicky laughed too, louder than anyone. "It's true," she added lightly. "If I don't remind him, nothing gets done. I'm basically the project manager here." The table laughed harder, because when the wife confirms the joke, it becomes safe. I smiled, calm and polite. The version of me everyone liked. Good thing you're here to manage the whole operation, I said. She patted my shoulder. Exactly. The pat lingered just long enough to feel official. Like a quiet stamp on the story everyone was already believing about us. Dinner moved on. Conversations layered over each other. Glasses emptied and filled again. The night rolled forward smoothly, almost peacefully. No conflict, no scene, nothing dramatic. Just a quiet imbalance settling deeper into the room. And somewhere under the noise, under the smiles, under the performance we were both giving, I felt the first crack. Not enough to break anything, just enough to hear it. Dinner settled into that comfortable noise people mistake for closeness. Plates moved, glasses clinked. Someone argued about vacation prices like it was a political debate. From the outside, it probably looked warm, lively, normal. I played my role well, refilling drinks before anyone asked, laughing half a second after everyone else, nodding at stories I'd already heard 3 times, the quiet skill of being useful without taking up space. Vicky was glowing in that social way she had, effortless, magnetic, perfectly tuned to the room. If attention were electricity, she could have powered the whole house. At some point, Ben leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink like he'd just solved life. So, he said, grinning, serious question. Who's actually in charge in this marriage? A few laughs. Carla nudged him. Don't start. No, I'm curious, Ben insisted. Every couple has a boss. It's science. Trevor pointed at Vicky immediately. Come on, look at them. This isn't even a debate. More laughter. Easy. Harmless. The kind that keeps rolling because nobody wants to be the one who stops it. I smiled politely and took a sip of water, already feeling where this was going. Ben raised his glass toward me. Be honest, man. You know she runs the show. Before I could answer, Vicky laughed. Quick, bright, confident. Oh, please, she said. He likes it that way. Less responsibility. The table chuckled. I set my glass down carefully. I didn't realize we had a leadership structure. Should I request performance reviews? A couple of people laughed at that. Small win. Nothing dramatic. Trevor leaned forward. Okay, but seriously, what happens if you two disagree about something big? Vicky didn't even pause. We don't, she said lightly. Because I'm usually right. More laughter, louder this time. Carla shook her head, smiling. You're terrible. I'm efficient, Vicky corrected. I watched her as she spoke. Relaxed shoulders. Easy smile. Absolute certainty that the room was on her side. Ben tapped the table. All right, but let's say he suddenly decides he wants something different. What then? That's when she said it. Still smiling, still casual, like she was commenting on the weather. Well, Vicky said, shrugging slightly, if he doesn't like it, the door's right there. The table burst into laughter, sharp, surprised, impressed by the boldness. Someone muttered, wow, that's cold, but they were smiling when they said it. And Vicky? She just laughed with them. Easy, unbothered, certain. Then she leaned toward me and kissed my cheek, soft and quick, like a stage whisper. Relax, she said quietly. It's a joke. A joke. I didn't laugh, not dramatically, not in a way anyone would notice at first. I just didn't join in. The sound of everyone else kept going for a second too long, like music playing after the scene should have ended. I turned my head slightly toward her. Are you serious? I asked, calm enough that only she could hear the change. She kept smiling at the table. Don't be sensitive. That's not what I asked. For the first time that night, her smile tightened, just a fraction. It was a joke, she repeated under her breath. I held her gaze for a second. A joke, I said quietly. Or the truth you've been wanting to say out loud? The laughter around us thinned. Not gone, just uneven now. People could feel something shift, even if they didn't know what. Vicky pulled back slightly, still composed, always composed. "You're making this awkward," she said. I nodded once, small, controlled. "I'm not making it awkward," I said calmly. "I'm just noticing things I used to ignore." And just like that, the moment closed. Conversation restarted in scattered pieces. Someone asked about dessert. Ben made another loud comment to drag the mood back up. From the outside, the evening recovered. Inside, something didn't. I sat there a few more minutes, listening without hearing, watching without really seeing. No anger, no dramatic rush of emotion, just a strange, quiet pressure building somewhere behind my ribs. Finally, I stood up. "Excuse me," I said calmly. "I need some air." Nobody stopped me. Why would they? Vicky entertained them. I stepped out into the night and closed the door softly behind me. The air outside was cool and still, quiet in a way the house hadn't been for hours. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing, telling myself the same things I'd told myself before. She didn't mean it. She was just playing to the room. Everyone jokes differently. Don't overthink it. I might have believed all of that if I hadn't heard her voice through the open kitchen window a minute later. Clear, relaxed, not joking anymore. "If he doesn't like something," Vicky said to someone inside, "the door's there. He's not going anywhere anyway." A small pause. Someone murmured something I couldn't make out. She laughed softly. "He wouldn't leave," she added. "He's too comfortable." And that was it. No shouting, no cruelty in her tone, just calm certainty, like she was stating a simple fact about the weather. Something in my chest went very still, not broken, not shattered, just quiet. Because in that moment, I understood something with absolute clarity. This wasn't about a joke, or a bad evening, or stress. She truly believed I would stay, no matter what. And the strange part? She had been right for a very long time, until that exact second. Standing alone in the dark outside my own house, I realized she was wrong now. For a long moment, I just stood there in the dark, not thinking, not planning, not even feeling much of anything. The night was quiet in that deep suburban way. No traffic, no voices, just distant wind moving through trees, and the faint hum of someone's air conditioner 2 houses down. Normal sounds, peaceful sounds. Inside, laughter kept rising and falling like nothing had changed. And that was the strange part. Something had changed. Completely. Just not in a way anyone else could see yet. I took one slow breath and turned back toward the house. When I stepped inside, nobody noticed. Trevor was in the middle of another loud story. Ben was opening more wine. Someone in the kitchen was asking where the extra plates were. Vicky stood near the table, smiling at something Carla said. Relaxed, comfortable, untouched by the quiet shift that had just happened outside. For a second, I watched her. Not with anger, not even with sadness. Just distance, like looking at a photograph from a life you used to live. Then I walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. Each step felt strangely light, not heavy, not emotional. Light, the way decisions feel when they've already been made somewhere deeper than words. Inside the bedroom, everything looked exactly the same as always. Bed neatly made, lamp glowing warm on the nightstand, the quiet, ordinary center of a life that had taken years to build. I stood there for a moment, listening to the muffled laughter from the other room, waiting for doubt, for hesitation, for anything that might pull me back. Nothing came. So I reached for the closet and pulled down the small travel bag we usually used for weekend trips. It felt almost inappropriate how normal that action was. Like I was packing for something temporary. Like I'd be back on Sunday. I didn't take much. A few shirts, jeans, toothbrush, phone charger, practical things, necessary things. I paused when my hand brushed against the shelf where a framed photo sat. One of those smiling, sunlit pictures from a vacation years ago. Both of us squinting at the camera, arms around each other, looking like people who believed in the future. For a second, I just looked at it. Then I left it where it was. Not out of sentiment, not out of anger, because suddenly it felt like it belonged to someone else. I zipped the bag slowly, the sound soft enough to disappear under the noise from the living room. Still, nobody called my name. Still, nobody noticed, which, in its own quiet way, said everything. I picked up my keys from the dresser and turned off the bedroom light. As I walked back toward the front of the house, the laughter grew louder again, bright, careless, alive. For a moment, I saw the whole scene clearly. The warm lights, the full glasses, Vicky at the center of it all, smiling like the night belonged to her. And maybe it did. I opened the front door carefully so it wouldn't make a sound. Cool air slipped inside, brushing past me like a quiet invitation. I stepped out and pulled the door closed behind me. No one inside heard it. I stood on the porch for a second, holding the bag in my hand, waiting for something. Panic, regret, a sudden urge to turn around. Nothing came, only that same calm clarity. So I walked to the car, opened the door, and sat behind the wheel. My hands rested there for a moment, not moving. The house glowed warmly in the rearview mirror, every window lit. Every room alive with people who still believed the story was continuing. They had no idea it had already ended. I started the engine. The sound felt louder than usual in the quiet street. I pulled away slowly, headlights sliding across the familiar shapes of neighboring houses, mailboxes, parked cars, lawns trimmed with careful pride, all the small signs of stable lives. The road ahead was empty, no destination planned, no speech prepared, no clear idea of what tomorrow looked like. Just one place that felt possible. Someone who had known me long before I learned how to pretend everything was fine. I turned at the end of the street and kept driving into the quiet night. For the first 10 minutes of driving, I just followed the road like it was making decisions for me. Streetlights passed in slow rhythm, empty intersections, closed stores glowing under tired neon. My phone sat silent in the cup holder. No messages, no calls. Nothing from the house I had just left. Part of me noticed that. Another part didn't care. By the time I reached the highway, I already knew where I was going. Not because I'd planned it, because there was only one place that made any sense. Her name was Lena. We'd known each other since we were teenagers, back when life was simple enough to believe effort always paid off, and love was something clean and obvious. We never dated, never even came close. Timing, distance, different lives, pick any cliché, it would fit. But she had always been steady, the kind of person who didn't panic when things got messy, the kind who told uncomfortable truths like she was doing you a favor. Which, to be fair, she usually was. I pulled over 2 blocks from her building and finally picked up the phone. It rang once, twice. Then her voice came through, rough with sleep and zero politeness. If this is a pocket dial, I swear I'm blocking you forever. Hey, I said quietly. A pause. Not confused, not worried, just alert in that instant, razor-sharp way she had. Why are you calling me at night? Lena asked. And don't say nothing. Nobody calls at this hour for nothing unless they're in jail, drunk, or emotionally stupid. I'm none of those, I said. Great, she replied. So we're left with the 4th option. What's the 4th option? You finally did something smart and ruined your life in the process. Despite everything, a small breath of something like a laugh escaped me. Can I come over? I asked. Silence. Then, softer, but still very much Lena. Are you okay? Yes. Did something happen? Yes. Are you about to cry on my couch? Unclear. She sighed, long, dramatic, completely performative. Fine, she said, but if this turns into a 3-hour emotional monologue, I'm charging you rent. I'll risk it. You always do, she muttered. Door code's the same, and bring snacks next time you have a personal crisis. I'm not running a charity. The line clicked off. I sat there for a moment, phone still in my hand. Same Lena, same tone, same strange comfort disguised as sarcasm. I drove the last 2 blocks slowly and parked under a flickering street lamp that looked like it had given up on ambition years ago. Her building was old brick, slightly crooked in the way only honest buildings are. No luxury, no polish, just real life stacked in rectangular windows. The hallway smelled faintly like laundry detergent and someone proving a point with garlic. When I knocked, the door opened almost immediately. Lena stood there in oversized sweatpants and a t-shirt that had clearly survived several historical eras. Hair messy, eyes sharp, expression halfway between annoyance and concern. She looked at the bag in my hand, then at my face, then back at the bag. "Well," she said, stepping aside, "this feels legally significant. Get in before a neighbor starts a rumor." I walked inside. Her apartment was small but warm, soft yellow light, a blanket thrown over the couch, books stacked in messy honesty instead of decorative lies. It felt lived in, safe in a quiet, unadvertised way. She closed the door and crossed her arms. "Okay," Lena said. "Quick survey." She pointed at me. "Scale from 1 to catastrophic. How bad?" "I left," I said. "A beat." She blinked once, twice. "Left the house," she said slowly. "Or left the marriage?" "Yes." Another pause. Longer this time. Then she walked past me into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and pulled out a bottle of water. She handed it to me calmly, like this was just another late-night conversation life had scheduled without warning. "Sit," she said, "before you fall over and make this night more complicated." I sat on the edge of the couch. She leaned against the counter, studying me with that uncomfortable X-ray vision she'd always had. "No yelling?" she asked. "No." "No broken furniture?" "No." "No dramatic speech in the rain?" "Unfortunately not. I know you love theatrics." She clicked her tongue. "Disappointing. At least give me something cinematic." I walked out during dinner. Her eyebrows lifted. "Wow, quiet chaos. That's advanced level." I looked down at the water bottle in my hands. "She said if I didn't like it, the door was there," I said. Then I heard her tell someone I'd never actually leave. Lena didn't answer immediately. Not because she didn't know what to say. She was just choosing her words carefully, the way she always did when something actually mattered. "And?" she asked softly. "And she was right," I said. "For a long time." Silence settled between us, not awkward, just honest. Then Lena exhaled slowly the counter. "Well," she said, walking toward the couch, "good news." I looked up. "You finally stopped auditioning for the role of patient idiot," she said. She dropped into the armchair across from me and pulled her knees up, watching me carefully. "You staying here tonight?" she asked. "If that's okay." She snorted. "Please. I've been emotionally prepared for this since 2019. "That obvious?" "I have eyes," she said, "and basic pattern recognition." A small quiet settled again. I was just sitting in a quiet room, across from someone who wasn't trying to win, and I realized how tired I'd been during our marriage. Lena didn't ask more questions after that. Not because she wasn't curious, because she knew the difference between curiosity and timing. She got up, disappeared into the kitchen, and came back with 2 mugs of something warm that smelled simple and familiar. "Drink," she said, handing one to me. "No speeches required." I nodded and took it. The apartment was quiet in a way that felt unusual at first. No tension hiding in the walls, no need to measure every word before saying it. Just a small room, soft light, and the low hum of the refrigerator somewhere behind us. Lena sat across from me, legs tucked under herself, watching without staring. "You know," she said after a minute, "most people wait years longer before doing something this obvious." "I didn't plan it," I said. "Of course you didn't," she replied. "You plan everything except the important parts." That almost sounded like a joke. Almost. I looked down at the mug in my hands. Steam rose slowly. For the first time all evening, my shoulders weren't tight. Nothing inside me was preparing for the next small comment or correction. Then my phone buzzed on the table. I looked at the screen. A message from Vicky. Where are you? I held the phone in my hand for a moment without answering. The question itself said everything. The guests were gone. The noise had faded. The evening had ended. And only now, in the quiet after all of it, she finally noticed I wasn't there. Lena watched my face but didn't ask anything. She already understood enough. I typed slowly. Not angry, not rushed, just certain. You don't need to worry about me anymore. You showed me the door. I used it. I read the words once, then pressed send and set the phone down beside me. A few seconds passed. Then the phone buzzed again. Another message. Are you with her? No name, none needed. The question had been waiting long before tonight. I picked up the phone, looked at the screen, and answered without hesitation. That's not your concern. Sent. The message delivered almost instantly. After that, nothing came back. No new text, no call, just silence. But this silence felt different. Not calm, not neutral. Empty in a way that meant something had finally slipped out of her hands. Lena made up the sofa for me, and I quickly fell asleep. Everything seemed calm in the morning. Lena moved around the apartment quietly. No questions, no advice. Only the normal sounds of morning, cups, water, a window opening somewhere down the hall. I was sitting at the small kitchen table when we heard it. A car stopping too fast outside the building. A door closing with more force than necessary. Quick steps in the hallway. Lena didn't look surprised. She just set the towel down and glanced toward the door. Well, she said calmly. That was sooner than I hoped and exactly when I expected. The knock came hard and sharp, skipping any attempt at politeness. Once, then again, louder. Neither of us moved right away. The third knock landed like a demand, not a request. Lena walked to the door at an even pace and opened it without hesitation. Vicky stood in the hallway, breathing fast, eyes already burning with anger that had been building during the entire drive. Her gaze jumped past Lena immediately, searching the apartment. Where is he? She asked. No greeting, no pause, just accusation wrapped in a question. Lena leaned lightly against the doorframe, completely calm. Good morning to you too, she said evenly. Don't do this, Vicky snapped. I know he's here. Yes, Lena replied. He is. That single confirmation only made the tension sharper. Vicky stepped forward, voice rising. So that's it? You just let him stay here? You think this is normal? I didn't kidnap him, Lena said quietly. He walked in on his own. Stop acting innocent, Vicky shot back. You've wanted this for years. Lena didn't react to the words, didn't defend herself, didn't argue. She simply stayed where she was, steady and silent, letting the noise belong entirely to Vicky. I need to talk to him, Vicky demanded. Before Lena could answer, I was already standing in the hallway behind her. Then talk, I said. Vicky turned toward me instantly. Relief flashed across her face for half a second, then disappeared under anger. What are you doing? She said. You leave, you ignore me, and now you're hiding here? I'm not hiding, I answered calmly. Then come home, she said. We'll talk there, not like this, not in front of her. The word her carried all the blame she needed it to. I shook my head once. No. The simplicity of it stopped her for a moment. Her voice rose again, sharper now. You're seriously choosing this? After one argument? After one stupid joke? It wasn't one joke, I said quietly. And you know that. She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing clear came out. Only frustration looking for direction. Fine, she snapped. Stay here then. Play the victim. See how long that lasts. I felt something settle inside me then. Not anger, not pain, just a clear, final line. All the scenes you want to make, I said evenly. Make them for the friends you perform in front of. She froze. Don't make them with me anymore. Silence filled the hallway. Real silence this time. The kind that doesn't bend. Her eyes searched my face, looking for hesitation, for softness, for anything familiar she could still control. There was nothing there. You don't mean that, she said, but her voice had already weakened. I do, I answered. No speech, no explanation, just truth, simple and steady. Go home, Vicky. The words weren't loud, but they ended the moment completely. She stood there a few seconds longer, as if waiting for the old version of me to come back and fix everything. That didn't happen. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Not surrender, just the first sign that control was gone. Without another word, she turned and walked down the hallway, and the noise she brought with her disappeared from the building. Lena gently shut the apartment door. Neither of us spoke. There was no victory in the silence that followed, no relief strong enough to call relief. Only a boundary that had finally been drawn after years of pretending it wasn't needed. Lena stayed near the door for a moment, listening to the fading sound of footsteps in the stairwell. Then she turned the lock calmly, like closing out noise instead of a person. Well, she said under her breath, that went about as expected. I didn't answer right away. There was nothing useful to add. She looked at me for a second longer, checking something she didn't explain, then walked back into the kitchen as if the morning still had ordinary things to finish. Water ran, a cabinet closed, life continuing without asking permission. I sat down again at the table, hands resting flat on the surface, noticing how still everything felt inside me. The kind of quiet that comes after a long noise finally stops. Minutes passed. Lena returned with 2 plates and set one in front of me. You should eat, she said. Major life decisions are always worse on an empty stomach. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway, she replied, sitting across from me. Your feelings can protest later. I picked up the fork without arguing, not because I cared about the food, but because the normality of the moment felt important. We didn't talk about Vicky again. There was no need to repeat what had already happened. Outside, the day kept moving, cars passing, someone talking loudly on the sidewalk, a dog barking somewhere too far away to matter. Ordinary sounds, unrelated to us. By afternoon, my phone started vibrating again, not once, several times in a row. I didn't reach for it immediately. When I finally turned the screen over, the notifications filled the display. Messages from Vicky, missed calls, more messages. We need to talk. You can't just disappear like this. This isn't how adults solve problems. I read them without reacting and placed the phone back on the table. Lena watched quietly. Different tone? She asked. Yes. Let me guess, she said. Now it's logic and responsibility. I nodded once. Classic, she murmured. Another vibration. This time a message from an unknown number I recognized anyway. Her sister. Call me. We need to fix this before it gets worse. A minute later, another name appeared. A mutual friend. Man, what's going on? Vicky's really upset. I let the screen go dark again. Lena leaned back in her chair. Stage 3, she said quietly. The committee. I almost smiled. They always arrive fast, she added. People love saving relationships they don't have to live in. Silence settled again, steady and calm. For years, this is where I would have folded. Answered every message, explained everything carefully, tried to reduce the tension before it spread. Now the phone just lay there, quiet again, and nothing inside me moved toward it. Evening came slowly. Light faded from the windows. Shadows filled the corners of the room. The day ended without asking what tomorrow would look like. I stood near the window for a while, watching the street below without really focusing on anything. Lena spoke from behind me, her voice softer than usual. You know this isn't the hardest part, she said. I know. The hard part is later, she continued. When everyone starts acting like calm means you're wrong. I turned slightly toward her. I'm not calm because I'm right, I said. I'm calm because I'm done. She held my gaze for a moment, then nodded slowly. Yeah, she said. That's right. Night settled in fully after that. No more messages, no more calls, just quiet again. And in that quiet, Something unfamiliar but steady began to take shape, a life that didn't depend on keeping someone else comfortable. After that night, nothing collapsed in a single moment. The change came quietly, almost imperceptibly, as if the life we had been living simply began to lose color day by day. A few days later, I filed for divorce. When Vicky learned about it, the silence broke again. She called, wrote, asked to meet, insisted that we should talk calmly like adults. She said that people make mistakes and that one bad night shouldn't erase years of shared life. Her words were sincere in a way that might have moved me before, but now they reached me too late, like a conversation arriving after the room had already emptied. Weeks passed, and the urgency in her voice slowly turned into something quieter. When we finally stood face to face again, she looked different, not weaker, not broken, just tired in a way that comes from fighting a result that no longer changes. She spoke carefully, almost gently, as if calmness itself could undo what had already happened. "We can still fix this," she said. "You know we can." I looked at her and realized that the absence inside me was complete. I wasn't angry with her anymore, and I wasn't hurt in the way I once had been. There was no argument left to win, and no apology left to wait for. What remained was only certainty, simple, quiet, and impossible to negotiate. "There's nothing to fix," I told her. "I just didn't understand that before." She watched my face for a long moment, searching for hesitation, for softness, for anything familiar that might still belong to the past. When she found nothing, her shoulders lowered slightly, not in surrender, but in recognition. "So this is really the end," she said. "Yes." After that, everything moved without emotion. Dates were set, documents prepared, signatures placed where they were required. The marriage ended the same way it had existed for a long time, quietly, without warmth, without resistance, as if the formality of the law were only confirming what life had already decided. When it was finally over, the world did not change. The streets looked the same, people continued their conversations, and the day moved forward with complete indifference to what had just ended. There was no triumph in the silence that followed, no feeling of victory or loss strong enough to name. There was only space, and for the first time in years, that space felt honest. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.